Centuries ago, a war was fought, and Rigoria was destroyed. But in a last-ditch effort, there was one elf who buried a little bit of magic.
Don't guarantee anyone will find it.
Let's hope someone does.
One young man
Pops, what is this?
will have to end a war started long before his time.
Can't run!
His spell has taken hold. This is the last possible chance this world may have.
Echoes of Rigoria, now available wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Welcome to the All Things Nintendo podcast. I'm Brian Shea, and this is a weekly podcast to discuss all the biggest news and games from the world of Nintendo. As you are listening to this, I am traveling for work, so I'm recording this a couple days earlier than usual. As a result, we will not have any news in this episode, but I will catch us up next week if any noteworthy stuff happens to hit. But we do have two very anticipated games to chat about, and to celebrate one of the games that's coming out as we are listening to this episode, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, we will be running down the history of that iconic Nintendo character. Then we will get a review of that very game, as well as a preview of next week's biggest release, Mina the Hollower. Joining me for that is my fellow executive editor over at Game Informer. It's Kyle Hilliard. Kyle, how's it going over there?
Hey, it's going all right. It's going good.
Going good. I'm so happy you were able to join me. You happen to be playing two very exciting games, very anticipated games that are coming to the Switch 2, and I believe both of them are on the Switch 1, or is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book only on Switch 2?
Oh, I think it's just Switch 2.
Okay.
That's a good question, though. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think it must be just Switch 2.
It doesn't seem like a game that would... It's a pretty, like, it's not... Sorry, I'm like second guessing what I'm saying. It is visually impressive to the point where I don't think it would work well on Switch 1, but it's not like this like showcase piece, you know?
Yeah. Like, I don't think there's any way that Donkey Kong Bonanza would run on the Switch 1. Like, in fact, they even tried that and it didn't work. So
just Switch 2, just to confirm. Yoshi the Mysterious Book, Switch 2 exclusive. Yeah.
Well, before we get to all the Yoshi chat, Kyle, it has been a wild ride these past couple of weeks. There was a random Star Fox Direct that popped up kind of out of nowhere, completely out of nowhere. Let's not like sugarcoat it. It was completely out of nowhere. They gave us a 15-minute heads up. I've now given my thoughts on the new Star Fox on Switch 2 a couple of times, but where are you at with it?
Just in general?
Yeah, like what are your thoughts on what was your reaction from that, and how have you like evolved your thinking since those 2 weeks have passed by?
It's not what I want from Star Fox, frankly. I didn't want a remake of Star Fox 64, but I will take a remake of Star Fox 64 is kind of how I feel about it. Like, I like Star Fox 64. I'm excited to sort of revisit it with this new sort of visual identity, but no, it's not what I really want from Star Fox. Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at, you know.
Now,
I wonder if when I play it, it'll just meet exactly the expectations I have in place for it. You know.
Now, what if my prediction comes true, and what it is this is kind of, it's been a long time since we've had a Star Fox game. This is going to be reintroducing the franchise to people with kind of the origin story of the current Star Fox team. And then after this game, we will continue with this visual identity into the future and then building out with new Star Fox stories. Whereas this is kind of like, because Star Fox 64 was always kind of like the beginning of the story, right? It's, you know, Fox starting to lead this team after his dad is betrayed by Pigma and you know, defeated by Andross. So what if that comes to pass? Would you be more satisfied if that was kind of the trajectory they were going for?
Yes, I would. But the precedent that Nintendo has set for itself is that they have like literally never done that. I don't think, really. Even Zelda games aren't really sequels. Like, they're sometimes occasionally follow-ups, you know? So I have low faith that would happen. But I mean, yeah, what I want is like Star Fox 64 2, you know? Like, I just want a continuation of that. So like if that's where we're going next, like, great, that's cool with me. I hope so. Yeah, that would be great. But I have low faith.
Fair enough. I mean, we did get Star Fox Assault as kind of the sequel to Star Fox 64, but you know, that was kind of hit or miss with people. The story, though, it was a direct successor to what happened at the end of Star Fox 64. So
That's
we
true.
have gotten a little bit of a continuity there, but I think that's been so long ago that they're not even going to try to litigate that or
I
resurface that.
I did play a little bit of Assault after seeing Galaxy again. Like I revisited it, and it had the same reaction I did all those years ago when I was like, "Wow, great first level." Falls off a cliff after that, you know.
What if the next game is a remake of Assault?
Honestly, I probably wouldn't voluntarily play it. If they're like,
Wow.
we're remaking Assault, I'd be like, I don't think I think my interest in that is negative. But I don't know. Hey, I could be wrong.
Well, we are going to move on to Yoshi talk from now until basically the final stretch of the show. But before we get to that, a reminder that this show is brought to you by the fine folks who support me on Patreon. Without them, this show literally would not exist. You can get access to the community Discord for as little as $3 a month. We're over there talking Nintendo all day long. Plus, we do community nights from time to time. And it seems like they're over there, with regular off-the-books Splatoon 3 community nights over on Sundays at the community Discord. Join that for $3 a month, but there are also $5 and $10 tiers to get you early and ad-free episodes, plus shout-outs at the end of every show. I've also recently restarted All Things Gamers, which is a semi-regular, extra multi-platform podcast that goes out to $10 patrons whenever I feel like I have something I'd like to talk about. Just published the latest episode of that, which was talking about The Blood of Dawnwalker, Forza Horizon 6, and EA Sports UFC 6. You can join the team that makes this show happen by going to patreon.com, searching for Brian Shea or All Things Nintendo. It is only because of the fine folks who support this podcast on that site that I'm able to keep this going as an independent entity week after week. All right, Kyle, you are the person who was in charge of reviewing Yoshi and the Mysterious Book for us over at Game Informer. And I know that you are a pretty big Yoshi fan. I mean, I think that you have, you've played most, if not all, of the Yoshi games. We're going to be talking about kind of we're going to run down the history of Yoshi here. But do you remember, what are your impressions of the character of Yoshi? I remember when I was playing as a kid, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever when I played Super Mario World for the first time and Mario could ride around on a dinosaur. But, what were your thoughts both as a kid and now?
That's interesting. Because I was not a World kid. I did not play Super Mario World 1 a lot. But I did absolutely. I to this day adore Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. That game is very important in my sort of video game upbringing. It's a game that I played, I got 100% on the Super Nintendo version and then again on the Game Boy Advance version, and I'll revisit it every couple of years on the Switch and Switch Online and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess I always thought Yoshi was cool. I like the idea of Yoshi. To me, he's almost always been a protagonist as opposed to a sidekick, because that's just where I kind of started with him, was with Yoshi's Island. So I've always kind of thought he was cooler than Mario, even maybe if I really sort of rack my brain about it, because that was I played more Yoshi's Island than any 2D Mario, maybe. I think if I'm really, because I really am not a big 2D Mario guy. So he's always been this interesting protagonist that I like, that doesn't really have a ton of personality ultimately. But yeah, I've always liked Yoshi. Yeah, Yoshi good.
Yoshi good. That's a great way to start off this rundown of the history of this character. So, interestingly enough, I back in 2017, Nintendo actually published a series of internally conducted interviews about the SNES Classic, the mini console that came out during that time. And they were promoting it by talking to a lot of the original developers that made the games that were featured on the on the console. And they had one for a lot of the different games. And they had one with Takashi Tezuka, who we just learned is retiring very soon, Shigefumi Hino, and Hisashi Nogami talking about Super Mario World and Yoshi's Island. And they focus primarily on Yoshi, which, convenient for this episode, I will say that. And if you listened to last week's episode, you know all about Takashi Tezuka because we talked a lot about his history and legacy with Nintendo. But just the short version, he joined Nintendo in 1984, co-creator of Mario and Zelda, directed both Super Mario World and Yoshi's Island, and has basically supervised and produced both Mario and Yoshi's franchises ever since. Hisashi Nogami is known mostly today as the creator of both Animal Crossing and Splatoon, but he joined Nintendo in 1994, and his very first job was working on Yoshi's Island for SNES as a character designer. And then Shigefumi Hino joined Nintendo in 1989 as a character designer for Super Mario World, but has since gone on to direct the Pikmin franchise and design the Mario Maker series. And also he worked on Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So I found this interesting during that interview because Yoshi actually dates back. I mean, he dates back even before the Mario World and all that stuff, because
Really?
Shigeru Miyamoto had a game called Devil World, which was his first console game. It was also the first time he collaborated with Takashi Tezuka. And they're not called Yoshi, but there are green lizards who hatch from eggs and can eat enemies. Plus, they make the exact same noise that Yoshi does when they lay eggs. So that might be the original kind of impetus for Yoshi.
That was an NES game, right?
That was Miyamoto's first.
It never came out in North America, right? Too satanic, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of religious symbolism. It finally did come to Nintendo Switch Online, though. You can play it now if you have the subscription.
Yeah.
But then in the original Super Mario Brothers, Miyamoto wanted to have give Mario a dinosaur companion, but the technology just didn't allow for it. And then he tried again with Super Mario Brothers 3 since they had a better handle on the technology, but just wasn't working. So he kind of scrapped it. And I found an old article from Official Nintendo magazine, which no longer exists. But Tezuka speculates that Miyamoto's fixation on this idea was due to his love of Westerns and country music, because the parallel is cowboys riding horses. So he's like, well, obviously, Miyamoto loves those things. So he would probably want his main character to also ride around on animals. So once the Super Nintendo came around, Miyamoto was finally able to achieve this dream, and he implemented a dinosaur companion in Super Mario World. So development on that game began in 1988. And here's a quote from Tezuka from that internal interview. He said, "I think he likes horses," and laughs. "When we were making Super Mario Bros. 3, he had drawn a picture of Mario on a horse and hung it on a wall near where he used to sit. I would look at that and think, I think he wants Mario to ride something." When we started making Super Mario World, we were working on the concept of Dinosaur Land. So I had Hino do art for a kind of reptile. So he gave Hino this assignment, and Hino originally designed it to look like a crocodile, and Tezuka was like, yeah, I don't know about this. This does not look like it fits the world, doesn't look like it fits the art style. So he told Hino to make it look more like a dinosaur, and Tezuka gave a quick sketch to give the idea of what he thought needed to happen. And it ended up being a really cute dinosaur, because of course it was. Tezuka is the most wholesome guy who's ever existed. Right. That ultimately became Yoshi. So there was they wanted some sort of connection to the world, and Koopa Troopas exist in this, so they wanted to have some sort of okay, well, there's a point of reference here. So they added a shell on the back of Yoshi, which originally people thought was going to be a saddle, but it's actually supposed to be a turtle-like shell. Kyle, where do you fall on the Super Mario 3 versus Super Mario World debate in terms of this is the best platformer of all time?
Not on either side. Frankly.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really like 2D Mario.
This is insane.
I think Donkey Kong, I don't know. Donkey Kong Country is I certainly have nostalgia for it, but I think level design in Donkey Kong Country just outpaces it by a mile. And then Yoshi's Island, I will totally take Yoshi's Island for any number of reasons over any 2D Mario any day. So neither? Is that an appropriate answer?
Are you guys hearing this right now? Kyle is blaspheming live on the air.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. You put Mario 3, Mario World, and Yoshi's Island in front of a kid in 2026, and you see which one they stick with. You tell me.
I mean, a kid. Let's be honest here, Kyle.
The,
They're
the,
not
oh,
going
the
to have
things that were made for children? Is that what we're talking
they're
about?
not going to have the historical perspective of what it was. But like, I bet if you put like, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom and Super Mario Brothers 3 in front of a kid, I bet I know which one they're going to go for in that case too.
Yeah, but that's IP. We're talking about like fun factor. You know what I mean?
I think that, yeah, I disagree. But I think that Super Mario World, for me, is the greatest platformer that's ever existed. It's my favorite Mario game by not a insignificant portion or insignificant gap. But of those two, then, where do you land?
Where do I land between those two?
Mario 2 and Mario World.
Mario 3.
Mario 3 and Mario World, sorry.
And I say this as someone who's really just for whatever reason, the timing of my video game fandom, just the way it worked out was kind of strange. And I just never really connected with 2D Mario, despite loving the character and stuff. But I think I like the sort of secretive, Mario World obviously also has lots of secrets too, but threes are kind of seem more impactful to me, like the flute and stuff like that. Like that stuff was really interesting to me when I would see it at a friend's house or play it at a dentist's office. I know it's like a weird way to sort of experience those games, but I also really like the airships of 3 as well. So there's stuff I think I prefer in 3, I think.
Wow.
I don't know. That's a tough question for someone who's not emotionally invested in either,
I'm very emotionally invested.
I know this about you. Yeah.
So speaking of debates, Kyle, Super Mario World, what happens when you press the button when you're riding on Yoshi to have him stick out his tongue? What is Mario doing? You know how he moves his arm forward? What is he doing in that?
Well, right. The sort of the idea is he's punching the back of Yoshi's head, right? It's that's sort of the fun internet joke, right? But I mean, are you getting at they have an answer in that interview where they
do?
Okay,
and it's I remember this. The actual lore is that he is pointing and saying go, and that is telling Yoshi to go. But everybody has always thought it looks like he's punching him in the back of the head. It turns out that it's a little bit more complicated. So here's what Hino said. Actually, we did the animation with the idea that Mario is hitting Yoshi on the head and Yoshi is sticking his tongue out in surprise. There's even a bonk sound. But we thought people would feel sorry for Yoshi, so we decided to pass it off as Mario saying go.
Which I do feel sorry for Yoshi. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't deserve that. Especially since you're always abandoning him into bottomless pits and, he's always the sacrificial lamb.
Absolutely, yeah. As he should be. No, I'm just
Hey, well, be kind to our green boy here. We're celebrating him. So during that time, Yoshi got his first starring role in a game on NES and Game Boy that was just called Yoshi, which was actually developed by Game Freak prior to their creation of the Pokemon franchise. And it is a puzzle game directed by Pokemon creator Satoshi Tajiri. And a year after that, we got Yoshi's Cookie, which was another puzzle game. This time it was on the SNES. It was produced by the creator of the Game Boy, Gunpei Yokoi, and designed by Tetris creator Alexei Pajitnov. So all-star cast coming around on Yoshi.
That's funny, yeah. Is Yoshi, the Game Freak game, and Yoshi Cookie, are they dramatically different? I know Yoshi Cookie I've played a fair bit, but I don't know if I played the original.
I don't think... See, I've had the exact opposite experience. I've played Yoshi, but I've never played Yoshi's Cookie.
Okay.
So, I mean, Yoshi is basically kind of almost, a matching game where it's the tiles drop from the ceiling and you're going around and you got to basically match things up. I think they're are they even enemies from the Mario franchise? I don't even remember, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't care enough to look it up right now.
Yeah.
So after development on Super Mario World wrapped, Miyamoto actually approached Hino and asked him if he could pause the artwork that he was doing for another game and help him come up with a new game idea. And Hino said that he felt the pressure and he was worried what it might mean if he couldn't come up with a good idea. Hino said, quote, "Yeah, so I entered a period of thinking up all sorts of projects, experimenting with them and canning them over and over. It got to the point where I thought if the next project fell through, I couldn't stay at the company. Just then, I had the idea of making Yoshi the main character in a game. I began by starting to think of making the game a sort of spin-off of the Super Mario series." So Hino talked with Tezuka about it, but Tezuka was busy with, directing A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening, being too busy directing two of the greatest games of all time back to back after already directing Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario World. But, we're quickly turning this back into last week's episode where we were talking about Tezuka's career. So Hino thought that with Super Mario World, the 2D platforming genre had reached its pinnacle of sorts. So they wanted to try new things in that space. So Hino began thinking of ways to make Yoshi have different abilities to make him feel and play like distinct from Mario. And Hino thought about having Yoshi carry something on his back to the goal, while Tezuka thought about giving Yoshi a flutter jump that would make him control very different from Mario, as well as kind of like a health system to help less experienced or new players and helping them have like a better chance at getting through to the end of the game.
Every hero strikes out on their adventure for a different reason.
To prove myself worthy of my mother's praise.
To write my own story and discover who I really am.
To prove to my family that I am more than they believe me to be.
To revive the god that has chosen me.
But when the fragile balance of the world is in jeopardy, and sinister forces move in the darkness, heroes will be tested, pushed to their limits and beyond. And it will be left to them to determine if they are up to the task. There is a darkness rising. Will they be able to overcome the challenges and meet this evil head-on?
For my god.
For my story.
For my freedom.
For the world.
To restore the balance. Modified Role Season 2, The Chronicles of Erin, a D&D 5e actual play podcast. New season, new characters, new story. Find us on all the usual podcasting apps or at modifiedrole.com.
And originally they wanted to go for this hand-drawn aesthetic, and Nogami kind of had joined the company right around this time, and right during that time Donkey Kong Country was released, and they briefly considered, they saw that and they were just blown away by the graphics of Donkey Kong Country, and they considered doing graphics similar to that for Yoshi's Island, but they were so far along with the hand-drawn style that they couldn't change them. And as a result, they decided to create visuals that they considered the exact opposite of Donkey Kong Country. And that ended up giving us the signature graphics of Yoshi's Island. So Kyle, I know you're a big fan of Yoshi's Island, as we've already covered. Would you even want to exist in a timeline where they went down that path of making Yoshi's Island look something like Donkey Kong Country?
I mean, I like thinking. I would like to see it. Because I've heard that before, and I've even heard that supposedly Miyamoto really was didn't particularly like the way Donkey Kong Country looked. Gosh, I feel like maybe a glimpse of it has been shared at some point. But no, I mean, I love the way Yoshi's Island looks, and like I said, I think it's gonna just hold up forever. I think it's always gonna look charming because it looks like a crayon drawing kind of in a way, and it's it just meshes so well with the Super Nintendo sort of what it's able to do visually. So I bet that sort of Donkey Kong Country visual version, which was probably closer to Yoshi N64. Was it Yoshi? What's that called? Yoshi's Island?
Story.
Yoshi's Story, right? I bet it would look kind of like Yoshi's Story, but yeah, I'm glad they landed where they landed. Yeah, the Yoshi's Island is one of the best looking Super Nintendo games, period, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It's beautiful. And I would say its art style is the first thing I think of when I think of that game, because it's just so iconic and it's so different from pretty much anything else on the Super Nintendo. And you're right. It almost has that Wind Waker quality where it's I don't care how far away we get from it. Even the further we get away from it, the better it looks in comparison to its contemporaries. Twilight Princess may have looked better at the time when it came out, but I would say it's pretty indisputable that the graphics of Wind Waker have held up better than the graphics of Twilight Princess.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. As much as I like the look of Twilight Princess, yeah, absolutely.
So Yoshi's Island, something that it's also pretty well known for, is it gave us Yoshi's kind of the foundation of his moveset that would be carried forward into appearances, not only in future Yoshi games, but also in his appearances in other games like Super Smash Brothers. And we see him appearing in other games as well. He doesn't really have those move sets, but he's a mainstay in like the Mario sports games. He's a mainstay in, as I mentioned, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Mario, like the Mario Party series, all kinds of franchises. Anything that Mario and like his friends are in, Yoshi is almost a shoe-in to be in there. Do you play Yoshi in any of these like kind of like crossover games?
I would play as Yoshi a lot in Mario Kart 64 because he was like a pretty balanced character. Like he had a lot of speed, but also wasn't like such a lightweight that he could just get run over. Like I think if you kind of like, people have put together tier lists over the years of like figuring out who's like, the unequivocal best Mario Kart 64 racer. And a lot of, I know Yoshi ends up on the top of a lot of those lists. And I think my love of Yoshi's Island, probably does influence the 64 era of me being like, yeah, I like Yoshi from Yoshi's Island, so I'm going to play as Yoshi,
I'm right there with you. I've never liked playing as him really in Smash Brothers.
No, yeah.
I've been a Yoshi main since the SNES Mario Kart. Like I don't care what tier he's in or whatever. Like I just like playing as Yoshi. I think that he's a fun character. I think that he in SNES he was one of the speed characters. I think he's evolved a little bit since then, but he's still one of the speedier characters in a lot of the games, if not all of the games. So I don't know. I've always enjoyed playing as him, and unless I have like a specific thing I'm trying to do with a certain character, like Mario Kart World, like if I'm trying to collect a costume, I'll play as that character, obviously. But like if I'm just jumping into a match and I just want to play and like or speed around, I'm choosing Yoshi most of the time.
Yeah.
So Smash Brothers, not so much. I'm not a big fan of the way that he controls and like his moveset and everything, but that is very much influenced by his, moveset that was established in Yoshi's Island. So
yeah, he feels like he does in Yoshi's Island for sure.
Yeah. So now that the groundwork is laid for this character and this franchise, we're going to move a bit faster as we go through the rest of Yoshi's games. But we got 3D visuals on a side-scrolling Yoshi game with Yoshi Story on N64 that we talked about. That one was directed by Hideki Kono, whose name may sound familiar if you listen to my History of the Mario Kart franchise episode, because he is the director and creator of that series. Tezuka stayed on to produce that game, and Hino returned as the artist, and it was more of kind of like a puzzle-style game with a storybook aesthetic, but was criticized for being a little bit too easy. And then after that, from 2004 to 2014, we got 4 handheld entries in a row. Yoshi Topsy-Turvy on Game Boy Advance, Yoshi Touch and Go on DS, Yoshi's Island DS, and Yoshi's New Island on 3DS. Kyle, pop quiz. Yoshi's Topsy-Turvy was only called that in the United States, and Yoshi Touch and Go had a different name in Japan. Do you know either of those other names?
Was it Yoshi's Touch and Go? What was the other one?
Yoshi Topsy-Turvy.
Those are the American names?
Those are the American names, and Topsy-Turvy was called something else in every other region outside of North America. Touch and Go just had a different name in Japan.
Gotcha. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I didn't. Yeah.
Topsy-Turvy was called Yoshi's Universal Gravitation everywhere but North America.
Okay.
And then Touch and Go was called Catch, Touch, Yoshi in Japan.
I think Universal Gravitation, Topsy-Turvy, that might be the only Yoshi game I haven't touched. I don't think I've ever played Topsy-Turvy. I could be wrong about that, though.
Well, it was a weird one because it was, it was developed by a studio called Artoon.
Yeah.
Which was oddly enough co-founded by the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, Naoto Oshima.
Mm-hmm.
So he had left Sega and he founded this. And it's weird because some people draw parallels between Yoshi's Island's gameplay and the Sonic franchise, which was very popular at the time. And it was because, all very momentum based and kind of exploration heavy. But Naoto Oshima, who was the co-creator of the Sonic franchise, also produced Yoshi Topsy-Turvy, and it used a built-in tilt sensor to let the player tilt their Game Boy Advance back and forth and slide objects and enemies around. Touch and Go was produced by Takashi Tezuka and directed by Hiroyuki Kimura, who designed the characters of Super Mario Bros. 3. And the graphics of this game were meant to pay homage to the original Yoshi's Island, and the controls heavily utilized the DS's touchscreen and microphone. And then Yoshi's Island DS brought Artoon back to develop, but Oshima didn't have any involvement because he had left Artoon by then. It was a direct sequel to Yoshi's Island on SNES and brings a wider cast of baby characters, including characters like Baby Donkey Kong and Baby Wario. and that was followed by Yoshi's New Island, Yoshi's New Island on 3DS, which was developed by Arzest, which was the new studio that Naoto Oshima had founded after leaving Artoon. So not confusing at all.
Yeah.
And that features kind of like the same hand-drawn aesthetics and was co-produced by Oshima and Tezuka. So that's a pretty good, 1-2 punch right there. Do you have a favorite of these handheld games?
Geez. Like I said, I didn't play Topsy Turvy to my memory. I don't think I did. Yoshi Touch and Go was an early DS game, and I was charmed by it because there just wasn't a lot yet that used the touchscreen as much as that did. So I kind of was sort of charmed by it, and I was like, oh, this is neat. But Yoshi's Island DS and Yoshi's New Island, I both found supremely disappointing. I really did not like either of those games for a number of reasons. Yeah, I didn't beat either one. Yoshi's New Island felt bad. It just, like, for whatever reason, it just didn't, like, Yoshi felt wrong. And the mechanic in Yoshi's Island DS where you, like, swapped babies to, like, access different areas of the level, I just did not work for me. Because, like, I hated, like, going through a level and being like, oh, there's vines here. I need Donkey Kong. And then it's like, well, I guess I got to go back and get Donkey Kong. And I just found the pace was just, like, just dead in the water. So I was really bummed out by those games, actually.
So given your disdain for having to backtrack and get your, like, a different character that you need for a different move, I'm assuming you're not a big Donkey Kong 64 fan.
No, not really. No.
Yeah, that mechanic drives me insane.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the recent console releases, Yoshi's Woolly World on Wii U and Yoshi's Crafted World on Switch, which were both developed by Goodfeel, which is the studio that was behind games like Wario Land Shake It and Kirby's Epic Yarn. Both of these games use distinct visual aesthetics. So Woolly World has kind of a yarn look to it, while Crafted World looks like it's kind of made up of household and kind of crafting objects. And both feature similar elements and are more straightforward platformers. And wouldn't you know it, both were produced by Takashi Tezuka. So following the release of Yoshi's Woolly World, Marcus Stewart, who was an intern at the time, and I had a chance to interview Emi Watanabe, who was the coordinator on that game. And much to our surprise, Tezuka showed up on the call completely unannounced. So cool. we got to chat with him about this, and I asked him about the place that the Yoshi series holds in his heart. And here's what he had to say. Quote, "The Yoshi series is very dear to my heart. The Yoshi move, the flutter jump, is something I created. And so that's very dear to me as well. But the egg throwing mechanic, I had some challenges with that one. So I worked closely with Mr. Miyamoto to get his advice on how to perfect that. That memory has stayed with me for a while as well." So mostly it just seems like I have a lot of good memories with this franchise. So yeah, it's very important to him and very special to him. We also asked him how he decides when to make Yoshi a main character versus a supporting character. So kind of calling back to something you were talking about, Kyle. And here's what he said. He said, quote, "Regarding Yoshi appearing in other games, we know Yoshi's a beloved character, and we know that fans want to see him as much as possible, but we really want to consider the game and gameplay that makes sense for having Yoshi as a character. It's really case by case and whether the mechanic adds something to the experience. That's kind of what we have on the forefront of our minds in making that decision." And Kyle, that brings us to today, which is the release of Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which is the latest game in the Yoshi franchise, which was also developed by Goodfeel. And it's kind of wild to think that this is the first Yoshi game in 7 years. But that is how long the gap was between Crafted World and Mysterious Book.
Yeah.
And best of all, Kyle, you've been playing it and reviewed it for Game Informer.
I did. Yeah, that happened. That was a thing.
How'd you like it?
I like it okay. I gave it a 7.75 for Game Informer. It's in the sort of, like, as we're talking about Yoshi, like, it's kind of a mid tier for me. Like I would put it above, like, the two that I just mentioned, Yoshi's New Island and Yoshi DS and Touch and Go. Like, I would have put it above those, but I don't think I would put it above Woolly World or Crafted. What is it? Crafted World. Woolly World. They're both worlds. Okay. Yeah. I don't think I would put it above those two. And, like, something I wrote about in the review is, like, I try to consider that I'm not comparing it directly to the Super Nintendo game, because it's not obligated to sort of recreate that experience or anything like that. Even if I do miss it, and, like, that's what I think about when I think of Yoshi, and that's the experience I'm kind of pining for. Mysterious Book is probably like the lowest stakes Yoshi they've ever made. You can't really die or take damage, and you're not really sort of trying to complete a gauntlet of challenges. Like, you're not trying to beat a level so much as you're sort of in a level and kind of exploring it and trying to figure out every interaction that you can do, whether that's like maybe there's like this giant pine cone and you have to get some bees over to like attack it, or like you need to get there's this like little animal that when you jump on its head it sings a note, and if you like find a leaf and you put the leaf on your back, then you can drop the leaf on that little creature and it like changes what it does. It's all about like little interactions, and then this sort of forward progress of the game is like, hey, try and figure out every little interaction that you can discover in this sort of level. And it is rewarding to figure out every little interaction. Like, it's fun to stumble upon things that you like didn't really consider, like, oh, that's a thing, I didn't know that, and the game will be like, oh yeah, no, that's a thing, congratulations, you found that. And then there's also a certain satisfaction for like, I think this might work, and then it does, right? Like, that's cool. That also feels good. And the game is also like, good job, you figured out how that worked. But then there's also, an equal amount of things that are just like, the little hint you'll get is just like, you should probably like look for like a cave or something. And I'm like, okay. And then like the result is like, I just had to find a cave, and in the cave there was like some interesting things, like I had to like, in that example, I had to like jump on a bird and like, fly up into this cave. And then in that cave, there were lots of other smaller birds, and it was like a nest, and that's kind of what the game is. It's just like, find every interaction. You're not going to be challenged too much. It's more about sort of discovery. And for me, it only took it so far, like it was I kind of lost steam at a certain point. I didn't really get excited to find every interaction. I was more just like totally was like, okay, I found enough to go to the next area and see what's new there. And it's like, it's different, it's different from every Yoshi leading up to it. And there's some satisfying elements to it, but it's not like a game changer for Yoshi. It's not like, oh yeah, this is the trajectory, we're going forward with Yoshi now. It's like, it's kind of a boring bit of criticism, but my ultimate like sort of feedback is like, yeah, it's okay, it's fine. It looks great. It feels good to play, but the sort of like mechanic of like finding every interaction that you can do in a level, like it didn't really like grab me in a substantial way, is kind of where I landed ultimately.
So I've played, maybe an hour of this game. I've not jumped in too much into the deep end, but like I've played through a few levels, and I've noticed that a lot of the stages are, at least early on, very self-contained, like very, very like small. Like, this is just like kind of a sandbox for you to find interactions with these whatever creature you're examining. Because like the way it works is basically Mr. E, who is the book that falls onto Yoshi's Island. He's like, oh, I lost my pages. I need you to help me like refill them up. He's basically an encyclopedia for like weird creatures. And you got to go around to different areas. So like you have to examine the parts of the page that you want to jump into, and usually do that by holding a magnifying glass, looking at a creature, and then saying, yep, I want to investigate that creature. And then it takes you to the area where they are, and then you can do all these interactions. The areas that I've been in so far are pretty small. Is that consistent throughout the rest of the game?
Yeah. I mean, there are certainly some like larger interactions, and there's some like big things that can happen, like surprising things, but for the most part it's like, yeah, it's like finding a number of like small things, Yeah.
Now they tease something in the trailers where there are like Bowser Jr. and Kamek, I guess, are in there. Mm-hmm. Or is it Baby Bowser? I never remember which one they're using.
I think it's Bowser Jr. I think
it was Baby Bowser for Yoshi's Island. I don't think they ever brought Baby Bowser back. It was just Bowser Jr. from that point on, because they made him a distinct character.
I believe you're right. Yeah, that's a good question.
So Bowser Jr. and Kamek are there, and there's like, it looks like there's boss fights or something going on. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, there is something kind of equivalent to like a boss fight.
One singular?
No, there's a few. But I mean, that's like the fact that like we're talking about it now, and I'm kind of like even remembering it's like, oh yeah, I guess you could technically call those boss fights, where they are sort of like, Bowser Jr. and Kamek, like they kind of do things and like you have to like, I'm trying to think of like an example that like wouldn't spoil anything, but it's like it's like combat adjacent. It's really like not. It's just like you're kind of doing big interactions. Kind of. It's closer to like a puzzle than like a boss fight. Like maybe you're using some of these abilities you found connected to these creatures that you're researching that lets you like push back, and that's kind of like what it amounts to. But yeah, I don't know. It feels more almost like a cozy game, like because like I said, you can't really like take damage or die. So it's like these quote unquote boss fights are like they're kind of like sort of like larger scale puzzles almost.
Mm. And like these interactions, like I will say that even at least early on, they're quite clever with like just figuring out like what these things do. Like, and it's like sometimes stuff you would not normally think to do. Like, Yoshi has his tongue move. He can throw eggs. He can also do this tail whip move that like I think usually just throws the object or the creature on your back.
Yeah.
And then you can carry them around, and then just having them around sometimes will unlock different interactions. Like on the first level, you put this little walking flower creature on your back, and you can walk past like other like these like bushes that have like flower buds, and it makes the flowers bloom. And that's one interaction you can do. And then another one is like you can ground pound them, and it'll make them so they get planted in the ground, and it grows like a kind of a field almost, and if you do it like near water.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other interactions that you want to do with these different characters, and I feel like that could go places that's very like interesting and rewarding, because like Nintendo is so good at breadcrumbing and making it so you feel like, oh, I discovered that, even though they're like basically doing the game development equivalent of like big hands and arrows pointing, do this, idiot. So like I don't know, like, do they at least like, are they at least good at doing that? Because it sounds like you were positive on this, but you're not like over the moon about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what is the basic question? Is like, does it get more interesting, I guess, or does it get bigger?
At the very least, are they good at like breadcrumbing and making you feel smart for like coming up with these interactions?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, because that's the whole game, is like it's just acknowledging when you do things. Because like the book character, Mr. E, he's just like talking to you a lot and being like, wow, you figured this out. So it is very like encouraging.
Words of affirmation is his love language.
I mean, yeah, it's like, that's kind of what it is. Like that's the satisfaction of like of you figuring things out, and this character, this Mr. E, being like, oh wow, look, you figured that out. That's great. But I mean, in terms of like breadcrumbing, that's an interesting question, because it's like it's mostly you're just gonna like pick up new creatures in almost every level, and they're gonna do weird things, and then you just kind of try different things and see what happens. And then the hints are basically the book will just say like, hey, go find that cave, right? Or like, have you taken a flower near water or something like that? Just it's like an example that you used. I don't even know if they're ever quite that direct, but yeah, it's not. I don't know. Like I didn't even really consider, because it's so light. It's such a light touch, these interactions. It's not like you're setting up dominoes to fall. It's more just like, oh, I can do this one little thing. I didn't realize I was going to do that. And then you can buy hints if you're really like stuck, but like stuck is like too strong a word, because like you're never really stuck in this game. There's very few things that would create like impassable barriers for you. So yeah, I don't know. Like it's not very good at breadcrumbing, I guess you could say, but it's kind of not really what the game is trying to do. It's not trying to like sort of teach you how to solve a dungeon puzzle in Zelda. It's just trying to say like, have you tried all this stuff? Isn't this cool? That's kind of the thesis of the game.
Were there any times outside of getting to that freaking cave that keeps coming up that like you were like, what the heck am I supposed to do? Or is like, are the hints good enough that like you were able to at least always have that forward momentum?
Well, there's always like, 10 things you could potentially do to like get enough points to go to the next level. So even if the Mr. E's hint was like just not that useful, he'll say something different, and then you'll figure that out instead, Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit to come up with specific examples, because they're all somewhat benign,
So what I was getting at with like the breadcrumbing was like, in the second level, there are like these bee-like creatures that are flying around and they'll kind of dive bomb you a little bit. And if they hit you, you just kind of bounce a little bit. Again, no health or life system in this game. But like that kind of sparks the idea of like, oh, well, like, maybe because like sometimes they'll do it and they'll get stuck into something because like their stingers like go flying into that at like a fast speed. So that kind of like sparks the idea of like, oh, I wonder if I could get them stuck in something that's going to be helpful. And then sure enough, there is something where like you need to get a certain number of them stuck into this object. I'm not going to spoil too much, but that's the type of stuff that I was hoping to get. Like, oh, there's like really cool, like they hint that this creature can do this, but then you experiment with that idea and it ends up being helpful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty consistent about that. Like that one thing leads to another, is sort of the path that it goes. But it's never revelatory, if that makes sense. Yeah,
that's unfortunate because I could feel like that would be where the real reward would come with this game, where it's like I didn't know what to do, but then I remembered that these bees could stick into things, and then I did this, and then that allowed me to open this new discovery, and then that led to this, and that gave me this whole new area. That's kind of like the vibe that I was hoping for when I came into this game.
Yeah,
and it felt like I'm getting glimpses of that early on, but I'm kind of bummed that it's not like the biggest part of this game, because I feel like that's where they could really get clever. As like, some of these people are people who worked on, they worked on Yoshi's Crafted World and Yoshi's Woolly World. So like those games are so much fun. Like I love those games. I'm still bummed that Yoshi's Woolly World is not on Switch after, it's still stranded on the Wii U.
That's
and it's
my
like
second favorite one, honestly. My favorite is Woolly, probably, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, how long is it, by the way? Like, are you able to say that?
Oh gosh, yeah, I think so. It's funny. I don't know. It doesn't feel super long because I want to say it was like 6 to 8 hours, if even that, to like see credits. Okay. Because like the way the game is structured, which I like, by the way, is that like you basically see the conclusion of the story and the credits after the 6th sort of stage. But there's 10 total. And when I say stage, I mean a stage has a set
world,
of like 6
basically.
or 7 levels. Yeah. And then a lot of the sort of like more, I guess you could say, bigger stuff like happens after that. Like that's when your tools kind of expand a little bit, and like so the 7 through 10 have like the difficult is like way too strong a word, but just like the more like you have to think a little bit more stuff, and the levels are a little bit more unique. So yeah, I mean, like the thing that you want from this game, Brian, is like it's there a little bit, but it's just like not like it's just not a massive part of it. I never saw, and I did not solve every puzzle, to be clear. Like, I did not find everything that you could do, and so maybe it exists, but like I never solved a puzzle or anything that felt like this like big revelation that I had figured out, that like involved a lot of steps and things like that. I never really had that. I never found that,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the Nintendo trademark though, right? Like having, okay, you got to the credits, like that's fun, like you're done, and then all of a sudden like the more involved or difficult stuff happens. Like that's almost every Mario game, right? You finish the game, and then like Mario Odyssey, Mario Wonder, all these games have like, oh wow, congratulations, you beat the game. Also, there's like 4 more worlds that you need to go through if you really want to like finish everything, and then also collect all these random things that are scattered throughout the levels and everything. So
yeah, which I like. Like I actually like. I feel like one of the first times I saw that was Captain Toad. Like it's like the first time where I was Captain Toad. I like beat the game. That can't be right. And I was like, oh no, there's a lot more here. But I guess you could say the same for like Mario 64 or something, frankly. You know what I mean? You only need 70 stars to beat the game, but there are 120 in the game. But there's a difference between like completionist and like we're going to give you a satisfying experience, and then like there's a lot of extra stuff also. Like I like that sort of template that Nintendo has given itself over the years, and I liked it here too.
Well, Kyle, like you said, you gave Yoshi and the Mysterious Book a 7.75 out of 10, which is a perfectly good score, but it is a downgrade from my score of Yoshi's Crafted World, which I gave an 8.25, and your score of Yoshi's Woolly World, which you gave an 8.5. So think that I know the answer to this, but does that sound right in terms of like your enjoyment of these 3 most recent Yoshi games?
Yeah, like I would put like Yoshi's Island, Woolly World, Crafted World, and then this, and then probably everything else goes below that, I think. Yeah, I'd have to think about it, but yeah. So like that feels right. Yeah.
Well, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book is out this week. So unless you're listening to this on the Patreon page, it is out now as you are hearing this episode. Kyle, before we wrap up, you have been playing another game for review over at Game Informer, and it is a title that we have been waiting on for what feels like a very long time, and it's finally out next week. We can't quite do a full review of this game, but what we can do is a preview. How are you liking Mina the Hollower?
Yeah, Mina the Hollower is interesting. It's I went into it expecting a sort of a Zelda throwback, right? Like a sort of like straight ahead, kind of like we love Link's Awakening, and we're kind of making a version of Link's Awakening, you know? And really what the game is, and I know this is a very tired comparison, but like what it really is and feels like, and what I'm getting a lot of the same emotions of, so to speak, is like playing a Dark Souls game. It actually feels much closer to Dark Souls than 2D Zelda, in a way that is compelling and challenging and unexpected. Like you're not really solving Zelda-like puzzles, even though it kind of like looks like you are, sort of. It really is more of this big open action game that has like a similar system for health. Well, actually it has kind of a unique system for health, but like you have like the equivalent of like Estus flasks. You have like you're sort of opening up shortcuts in the way you do in Dark Souls. Instead of hitting bonfires, you're finding these like burrows that you can kind of dig into. And like the way I feel when I play a Dark Souls game or a From Software game in general, where you're like, you know, you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing and you finally break through, and then you get to a place where you can save and get your health back and everything, and like re-up your Estus flasks, and then you kind of do that again. You know, you push through, you have to try a bunch, and then you finally break through, and it's so satisfying to find that campfire, you know. And then you get to a boss, and the boss is super challenging, and you're trying it over and over again, and like you're losing all your sort of experience that you've built up to that point, because it's like, you know, you're dropping the equivalent of souls basically in Mina, but then you finally beat them and you break through, and it's really satisfying. Like I'm getting those emotions more than the sort of Link's Awakening emotions of like, this is a weird place. Oh, how do I get through here? Oh, I need this item. I got this item. I solved this puzzle. Cool. You know, like it's like 20 to 30% Zelda, and then like, you know, 70 to 80% sort of From Software inspired, which is not what I was expecting, but I am enjoying quite a bit.
Well, that's good. I mean, I don't think that that's a weird expectation to have, when I think they've specifically referenced, hey, we were inspired by the Game Boy and Game Boy Color Zelda games like Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, and Link's Awakening.
Oh, yeah.
So it's weird that it would like not be so close to those. I mean, it definitely is in terms of visuals, but like, I mean, to have this be a Dark Souls style game is very unexpected to me, especially since I've played I've played this demo, or I've played a demo of some sort at different events on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
And I always walked away thinking like, oh yeah, that does feel like kind of like an old school Zelda game. So to have it change is surprising. I mean, not change, but the full game feel that way.
Mechanically, like the way you move Mina and the way you swing your sword feels like Link's Awakening, feels like Link to the Past, but the larger structure and progression, you know, the sort of the bigger picture is closer to Dark Souls, is kind of like the best way to sort of frame it. Yeah.
But it's working for you? Like,
yes.
You're feeling good about it? You think that, like, you know, even though you were kind of expecting a Zelda-style game and you're getting a Dark Souls-style game in a kind of like that Zelda, old-school Zelda wrapper, you're not disappointed by that?
Yeah, not a complaint, to be clear. Like, I'm going to try to take I mean, we're talking about it with Yoshi. Like, I'm going to try to take the game at what it is. You know, like, what I expected it to be ultimately doesn't really matter. I just want to sort of appreciate it for what it's trying to do in the moment. So it's like, the fact that it's different than what I expected doesn't really like make me like it or dislike it more or less or anything like that. But I'm enjoying my time with it. It is a game I'm thinking about a lot when I'm not playing it. It's like one of those types of games.
And it seems like it might be a larger game.
It's pretty big. I think I'm like 20 hours in or something like that. And I don't know. I don't know how much I can say in terms of progress, but like I have a decent amount to go, So, yeah.
Wow. Well, we will look forward to your review over on GameInformer.com whenever the embargo lifts. I don't have those details handy, but Mina the Hollower is going to be available for Switch 2, Switch, and every other major platform May 29th. Kyle, what is what is your history with Yacht Club? Are you a big Shovel Knight guy?
Yeah, I mean, to say a big Shovel Knight guy is inaccurate, but I played it when it came out and I really liked it a lot. I remember like enjoying the action of it, but also being really moved by the sort of characters and story. And not so much like the plot was really dense and exciting as much as it was like really good at sort of showcasing sort of a borderline romantic relationship and really delivering something impactful over the course of that game. And then like the combat and the action and the visuals and stuff and music were all very cool, But it's not like a game I've revisited or anything like that. I played through it once and I was like, yeah, that was great. Good time. That's how I felt about Shovel Knight.
Sure. I mean, that's a game that drew inspiration from so many of those old school 2D platformers and action games, like side-scrolling action games, that it's interesting that that's kind of the niche that Yacht Club has carved out for themselves, where it's like, we're going to, modernize while still making them look like the old style of games. Like these games do not have like these graphically intense looks to them. Like Shovel Knight looks like it's a Mega Man game from back in the NES, maybe early SNES days, and Mina looks like a Game Boy Color game. So it's interesting that they are making these modernizations in everywhere but the visuals.
Yeah, which is cool. And those visuals like lend themselves well to the intense action that they're trying to deliver, so.
Well, I'm excited to dive into Mina the Hollower. Thanks so much for sharing an early impressions on that game. I know a lot of people have been waiting a long time to finally play this game, and I am super stoked to be able to dive in very soon. But Kyle, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of All Things Nintendo.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian.
And thank you so much to everyone for listening. As you know, my Patreon and the associated Discord server are the best ways to get any questions or comments in. But you can also get in touch with me at brian@allthingsnintendo.com. or hit me up on Blue Sky or Instagram at Brian P. Shea. Kyle, tell people where they can get in touch with you.
KyleHilliard.com on Blue Sky.
That is our show for this week. Thank you again for listening. Take care. We will see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode of All Things Nintendo. I really hope you enjoyed it. Before we wrap up this recording, I just want to give a special thank you to the $10 patrons of this podcast. Alex Stadnick, Ben Richland, Big Mitch, Chad Brecky, Chaps My Ass, Damian Patino, Derek Sigmund, Dusty Beeman, Ian T. Clark, Jawar Hello, Johnny Five, Jose Villalobos, Joshua DeProy, KC Radio Man, Kenny Shaw, Cody Gibson, Creeper207, Nathaniel Edison, Ozman83, Paul at Drunk on Mako, Pratable, Rob McCann, Bobby Mac 265, Robert Sosa, Roberto Nieves, Roger Reichert, Russell Sayer, Smithy Poo, Zane Sink, and Zek 3 Sword Sama. Thank you all so much for continuing to support the All Things Nintendo podcast. It would not be able to continue without you.
Centuries ago, a war was fought, and Rigoria was destroyed. But in a last-ditch effort, there was one elf who buried a little bit of magic.
I guarantee anyone will find it.
Let's hope someone does.
One young man
Pops, what is this?
will have to end a war started long before his time.
Can't run!
His spell has taken hold. This is the last possible chance this world may have.
Echoes of Rigoria. Now available wherever you listen to your podcasts.